The regular season for the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series rolls on. Tonight, it is the brand new Atlanta Motor Speedway with a brand new racing style. Welcome along to the Millie's Restaurant and Catering 200, round number 9 of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series season. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me in the commentary booth tonight is Ian Fisher, and we have Zach Johnson down in the virtual production trailer tonight. And Ian, this is a big night. First time that these trucks and these drivers will go racing on the brand new Atlanta Motor Speedway, which is unlike now any intermediate sized track of its liking, because now it is a full-blown super speedway, full-blown pack racing that these drivers will take part in tonight.
And you hit the nail on the head there, Josh. This place used to be known for its rough and abrasive track surface, and you ran right up by the wall, or you were essentially toast for the whole night. But not anymore. This is a wide racetrack, multiple racing grooves, like you mentioned. Races much more like a super speedway now, like Daytona or Talladega. So it's going to be really interesting to see not only who has the fastest truck tonight, but honestly, who can survive all the laps.
It's what we saw in the real world in the NASCAR Xfinity and Cup Series as well this season. We'll see what we are going to see when we go racing virtually. I mentioned that we're about halfway done with the season now, about to reach that total halfway point, but well over halfway done now in the campaign. And we're here in Atlanta tonight. Hickory, Pocono, Talladega, Rockingham, and Charlotte, the only tracks left on the schedule. Before we do that playoff cutoff, Michigan, Circuit of the Americas, Kansas, Daytona, Bristol, and we'll end off the season in Las Vegas. But the playoff standings, Ian, are getting very, very interesting, because right now where we currently stand, it is still Ted Wade at the top, but it was not him that got the win in Indianapolis. It was Brady LaBeouf that was able to walk away with the checkered flag, his first one of the season. He's now locked into the playoffs, and you can see a lot of drivers are well and good over the cut line. Keith Haney 122 above, Stephen Thomas 115, Jacob Klinkart 103. But then you go down, Cody Knott still with a solid gap over Brandon Bullock at 28 points. If he makes a simple mistake, Cody Knott won't be losing that spot, but he needs to be careful he does not get wrecked out. Same thing with Jose Luis Rivera and Devin Painter. They can very easily fall behind the 8 ball in this playoffs.
Yeah, there's a lot of notable names near that cut line. Taylor Peacock, the winner of our Clash earlier this season, comes to mind. So does Keith Bradley, Brandon Bullock, Jose Luis Rivera, drivers that have been competitive all season long. But since they find themselves without a win, they're now battling in that cut line. And I think one driver that has a lot of the relief taken off of him is you mentioned last week's winner, Brady LaBeouf. He's a former champion in this series, and you know he's been running well every single week. But you got to think that win, Josh, especially coming into the stretch here, going towards the playoffs, really takes a lot of pressure off the 9 truck.
You mentioned both Keith Bradley and Taylor Peacock being very, very competitive. That's exactly what I've seen this season and in past seasons of this campaign. And unfortunately, they're both outside of that playoff cut line right now. Remember, one win will lock them into the playoffs. But they got to try and get the victory lane at a very, very tough racetrack in the new Atlanta Motor Speedway tonight. I want to give a big shout out to the title partner for tonight's race, Millie's Restaurant and Catering, from right up north from where I'm at in Palm Beach, Florida, in Daytona Beach Shores, Florida. On an upcoming episode of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, they will be featured. And we want to give a shout out to everybody at Millie's Restaurant and Catering as well. Normally playing the races in the restaurant when we go racing in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. So we want to say hello to everybody down in Daytona Beach and welcome on in to what is set to be a very, very exciting race tonight. And we're getting ready to take a look at that starting grid as qualifying wraps its way on up, and the drivers will get ready to take to the starting grid. Qualifying over, and pole position goes to Chris Cinnamon. What a lap from the number 3 machine to get up to the top of the board at 32.391. He'll start on the pole, and last week's winner looking for a bit more, Brady LaBeouf, going to start to the outside of row number 1. to Tyler Dittmer. We'll start to the inside of row 2 with Joey Doucette to his outside 4th. P5 goes to Keith Haney on row 3. Robbie Richards will be to his outside. First podium finish for him of the season at Indianapolis. Jason Morales, Ed Osborne going to share the 4th row with Lucas Whitehead and Steve Williams. Going to round out your top 10. Current points leader Ted Wade, 3 wins on the season for him. He starts inside of row 6 to Trey Pitts to his outside. Stephen Thomas and Zach Hartwick going to share the 7th row. row, with Brian Abbott rounding out your top 15. Tim Hammond is going to start outside of row 8, P16. Taylor Peacock, not with a great qualifying effort, at a 32.5. He'll start 17th. Adam Newbert to his outside 18th. Devin Painter and Jacob Klinkart going to round out your top 10 rows, the top 20 on the grid. Jonathan Munda, Keith Bradley share the 11th row. Eric Zimmerman, Derek Kilgore going to be 23rd and 24th, with Tori Thompson rounding out your top 25. Adam Cantwell 26th. Justin Lumpkin and Brandon Bullock going to be on row 14, first of the drivers not to take a time in qualifying. Kyle Hess, Dana Shepard going to round out the top 30, and all drivers down from here electing to start at the back, not taking a qualifying time. That's James Morris, Jeffrey Sickles, Raul Meza, Dan Hagan, Huck Wigington, James Haney, and Cody Knott is going to be in the 37th and final spot on the grid. The 999 TJ Moore is on race control tonight. Field lines up at the pit lane here from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway, and tonight we'll go racing for 135 laps tonight. Stage 1 will be about 35 laps in length. Stage 2 will end at lap 70. Custom fixed setup as always, but something interesting here, Ian, 80% fuel inside of these trucks. We know they'll have to make pit stops end of stage 1, end of stage 2, with no tire wear really at this course. It's kind of a gamble at who's going to pit and when in the final stage.
And yeah, that's really, especially with the smooth racetrack we have, it's been resurfaced here, so it's almost essentially a brand new surface these drivers are racing on for iRacing purposes. So yeah, you're going to see absolutely no tire fall off whatsoever. So it's really going to come down to not necessarily fuel strategy. I don't think we're going to see drivers running out of fuel at the end of the race, especially being in the draft all night long. But it's going to come down to those stops really on fuel, not so much tires. You might see some right sides, but I think that'd be about it, Josh.
I have walked the entire length of this track back in the spring when Monster Jam was at Atlanta Motor Speedway on a very early Sunday morning. Me, Evan Pasoko, and the rest of the team walked the track here at Atlanta, and that banking is very, very steep. It is as steep as it looks for these drivers in their virtual trucks, but we're ready to go racing in a new pack racing style from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. We've seen a lot of exciting racing from this series at Atlanta before, but I don't think we have seen anything yet. As the field comes off of turn number 4, iRacing pace truck to the safety of the pit lane. Time to go racing from virtual Atlanta, and as they hit the Geico restart zone, round number 9, and the Millie's Restaurant and Catering 200 is green. Two drivers going to fall all the way to the back of the field. That's Jason Morales and Ted Wade, with Chris Cinnamon leading the way. Tyler Dittmer in the 34, tucked up right behind Keith Haney, Brady LaBeouf, and Joey Doucette, the top 5 off the start, as they all race their way to the back straightaway. Already seeing a bit of separation closer to the back of the field, but we've got a really, really good pack formed up here, top 14 on the racetrack.
And we've seen a few of these super speedway races so far in the NASRA Pulling M Truck Series here, Josh. So I kind of know what we're going to see here, especially in this first stage. We're going to see one of those lines become the dominant line, and then the rest of the drivers are going to go with that, at least early on in this race. I don't think you're going to see a lot of aggressive moves here. As we look on board here with one truck right now behind Joey Doucette, and you see how tight these drivers are going to be all night long, Josh. They're going to be right up on each other. It's going to be a mentally taxing race, that's for sure. Maybe not so much physically. It's not difficult to drive these cars, but your situational awareness is key in this style of racing.
I was on board with the number 92 there, Steve Williams, right in the middle, and Chris Cinnamon in the 3 has chosen to fall all the way to the back of the field. He's continuing to fall even further back into the 20s now, P25, as they let Bullock by to go to P26. He continues to fall down. That is very interesting. Of course, qualified on the pole in that over-the-top designs number 3, and now falls all the way back. You know, Ted Wade did the same thing, Ian, but Ted Wade up P21. Chris Cinnamon is continuing to fall all the way to the back of the grid. What has happened to the 3?
I have no idea. There's stuff going on all over the field right now, Josh. Looks like a few trucks got together and kind of got out of sorts. I don't think looks like we're going to stay green right now, but all kinds of action all over the field right now. And really, it's just a hornet's nest. It kind of broke up all these packs. Now a lot of these trucks are running almost single file, Josh. So we'll see how anybody can get grouped up here and kind of form a pack to get back up to the front and form an advantage that way, because that really kind of shook everything up.
There's a hard lick to the wall for the 96 of Torrey Thompson. Let's take a look at it here. 3 wide. That's Ted Wade, Justin Lumpkin, Brandon Bullock going by. Let's see what happened here to the number 96 of Thompson. Where did he make contact with that wall? Oh, the 1 gets up all the way on the outside. 96 goes down to avoid it. Ted Wade running into a bit of issues, and that was 4 wide for a moment. Where did Torrey Thompson end up slamming that outside wall? I'm not sure where. It had not happened yet. He crosses the start-finish line through the quad oval. Still a lot of damage to that number 96. And you mentioned Ian, just a lot of things happening all along that first couple of laps. And now we've only got a group about 5 deep. The 23 is Stephen Thomas, got into the 92. One driver turned from behind as well, and it was just a lot of drivers bouncing off of each other. No caution, no incident. We stay green on the racetrack, but as we sit right now, Brady LaBeouf gets a push to the outside line, and the 34 of Tyler Dittmer on the inside line now. 5 trucks deep in the opening pack. Then we've got another 6 back behind to make the top 11, all separated by about 1 second as they race back to turn 1.
It looks like right now the 88 truck of Lucas Whitehead kind of just really doesn't know which line he kind of wants to go with right now. You see him kind of bobbing up and forth, back and forth there between the top line and the bottom line, and that's kind of stalling one line out when he goes to the other. So right now you see he kind of sticks with that bottom line with the 34 and the 78 on the inside going into 3. They're starting to get a little bit of advantage right now, but Ted Wade is going to get that run off the outside with looks like the 16 of Doucette there pushing him. So they're going to take the advantage back to the stripe, but it's the ebb and flow of this style of racing, Josh, we're going to see all night long.
Already going to put 8 laps behind us. Remember, lap number 35 will be the end of stage number 1. As off the back straightaway goes Brady LaBeouf, getting a shove from Joey Doucette to the race lead. Remember, LaBeouf, first race win of the season for him at Indianapolis 1 week ago. Outside line, about 5 trucks strong. You got about 5 on the inside with a couple of stragglers at the edge of that bottom line. But it's still Brady LaBeouf in control of this race in the outside line, which normally at Daytona or Talladega we wouldn't see much of. But off of 2 to the back straightaway, that outside line has a definitive advantage, especially with the number 16 of Doucette tucked in behind the number 9 of LaBeouf on the outside.
Well, one thing we haven't really talked about so far tonight, Josh, is the difference between Atlanta and the other 2 super speedway tracks at Daytona and Talladega. Of course, you have the 1.5 mile racing surface, so that's a huge difference, but you also have the quad oval and that different angles you have to take into the quad oval. And I think that actually does favor the outside line. You don't have to put as much input into the wheel. So I think that's why you're seeing this 5 truck group up at the top led by LaBeouf seeing a little bit of an advantage right now, is because on that inside line and that quad oval, it really pinches you down on the wheel, and you really have to watch your outside and be aware of where you're at with your truck.
About 10 trucks in this lead group. Then you've got Taylor Peacock in the 81 P11 back there, all the way top 14 in this group. Then you can look back to about 16th on back. There's a completely separate group behind this lead pack, as the lead pack's going to catch up to a lap machine very, very soon. And there's that second pack. 16th on back is Devin Painter going to go to the inside, and Ed Osborne is going to hit the outside wall. He loses a good bit of momentum on that outside line as Painter gives a big shove to the driver in front of him to get up to the front of this group. That was Adam Cantwell. Now Ted Wade's going to take that spot.
And the rest of this pack, you're just kind of battling it out for position right now, especially in this first stage. You see the 99 Exide truck there of Devin Painter trying to fit in with the 2 of Ted Wade as they dive into turn 1. And if you're this second pack, you really just got to hang on to that first stage break. Maybe everybody comes down for pit stops. Maybe you have an opportunity to get yourself back off cycle, because track position is going to be key, especially here tonight, Josh. You already mentioned it. Tire fall off isn't going to be that much of an issue. You really got to worry about fuel. So track position is going to be huge, especially here when you're getting separated in these packs.
Back to turn number 1, and still big gap for Brady LaBeouf to Joey Doucette as they race off of the corner. Joey Doucette tucked in behind Brady LaBeouf, and this group now starting to group up a little bit more as they head to turns 3 and 4. Dittmer on the inside. He's got help behind by Keith Haney in the number 78. Just cannot get a clear of Brady LaBeouf on that outside line. They got Lucas Whitehead in line as well. They have Stephen Thomas in his Toyota Tundra. It just can't go anywhere on that inside line, and Dittmer is trying as one driver gets loose. Outside line, almost hits the wall off of turn number 2, but he's able to save it. That was Trey Pitts that's going to get trapped on the outside line. The 27 almost makes contact with the 93 as they head back through 3 and 4.
Really good job there by Trey Pitts of the 21 truck. You right on board with him now there. You mentioned he got kicked out into the outside and kind of fell back, Josh. You mentioned he got close to the wall, but really good job of not hitting it and then getting himself back in line quickly. It's so easy to lose positions here once you lose that momentum and you lose the slipstream of the draft. Really good job to file back in and stay in position here.
Side by side, still down the back straightaway for this lead group. And right before the race began, on the pace laps, race control reminded these drivers, do not pass below that white and red line on the bottom of the racetrack. That is going to act like a double yellow line at Daytona or Talladega. They cannot go below that line to advance their position. They will receive a black flag if they try to do so. Off of turn 2, and Dittmer gets clear for a moment, but LaBeouf rallies back on the outside line. And even when that 9 gets clear, he's clear of Dittmer now through 3 and 4, but he does not try and go for that spot in. He wants to stay up top, and he wants to stay with Joey Doucette behind. He's a good drafting partner, which we've never talked about drafting partners before in Atlanta, but here we are. They are important in this race.
And it's kind of fascinating to me too as well, Josh. I'm watching that outside line primarily as they go around. I kind of focused on them as this race goes on. And they only have 5 trucks, and they're actually a little bit more split up than the bottom line. It's a little bit less coherent now as we see Doucette dive to the bottom on the 34 machine there. So he'll take down the front line of the bottom there, but it's an interesting move. Doucette was really working well there with LaBeouf and kind of just decided, hey, I kind of want to be out in the lead now. But what I was mentioning is the outside line, even though they're not as grouped up, they seem to be just able to keep that little bit of momentum on the inside line now. But with Doucette moving to the bottom, we'll see if that can stay the same, Josh.
Off to the back straightaway they go, and Joey Doucette, LaBeouf wanted to stay with him to be a teammate. Doucette said no, and went down to the bottom of the racetrack to get that spot over Tyler Dittmer as Dittmer almost washes up into Brian Abbott. Tim Hammond loose outside line, and they're able to save it off of turn number 4. An unconventional shape for a super speedway. We're used to, the short chutes leading down into one common tri-oval and then a very, very long back straightaway, and them being 2.5 miles and over. Well, Atlanta Motor Speedway being 1.54 miles in length and having a quad oval at the front straightaway is just a wildly different way to pack race. And we've seen stuff like this before in the Cup Series at these intermediates, but nothing of this nature as Justin Lumpkin is off the pace and limping on the inside line in that number 87. I don't see any damage, and he washes back up onto the racetrack. It looks like what we're seeing, Ian, by a lot of these drivers is they do not want to get caught up in a wreck this early, and at the slightest think of possibly wrecking, they're out of that pack and washing to the back of the field.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers pulling the chute so far and just going back to the back of the pack. And that's something that I kind of was thinking before the race as well. The drivers that already have 1 win under the belt, are they going to be really aggressive like we see Brady LaBeouf right now at the front of the field trying to win this race? Or are they going to hang back and kind of just let this thing be a war of attrition and see where they end up and get a good point today? So it's kind of a different strategy you're seeing. You see Ted Wade and a few other drivers that have a couple wins this season fall to the back. But you also see some other drivers like Brady LaBeouf trying to make all those points that they possibly can. And I think if you are a driver like Brady LaBeouf, you have to get a few more wins, especially if you're going to compete with Ted Wade for that championship.
Our producer, Zach Johnson, mentioning how this gives him almost 2011 Vegas vibes, and I'm definitely getting that. And you mentioned how loose everybody is. Everybody does look a little bit upset with their race trucks, and nobody really looking too snug. Whitehead's going to get turned on the inside line. He is able to save it, drifting it through 2, and he keeps it straight. No caution on the speedway, but that was a big moment for the lead group as Lucas Whitehead falls from inside the top 5 to P14. It was no contact. He just hit that inside apron in, and right around he went. A little bit of help from Stephen Thomas once he lost momentum, but that was all Lucas Whitehead's mistake in turn 1.
And that's incredible. That's probably the 3rd or 4th truck we've seen so far at over a 45-degree angle and save it, and the caution hasn't come out. So it's interesting that we're seeing these trucks this loose, and that's kind of what led to that incident there. But when they do get loose and they snap loose, it seems like there's still enough grip in the track to be able to save it.
He was able to save it. We are able to keep on going. And back through the quad oval they go. 11 laps remaining in the stage. Doucette on the inside, LaBeouf outside as the lead group that once was about 20 cars strong now is only going to be about 11 cars strong. As Taylor Peacock is at the edge of this group, LaBeouf leads back to 3. He's got help from the 82 of Brian Abbott upstairs with Tim Hammond there as well. The 78 of Keith Haney also joining that group with Doucette on the bottom. It's Doucette leading, then Trey Pitts, Jacob Klinkart, Stephen Thomas is on that inside line. They also are going to have the 92 of Steve Williams there. Tyler Dittmer joins the outside line, and Taylor Peacock still trying to figure out where he wants to go as they go back to the back straightaway.
And Dittmer was leading this race for a vast majority of this stage so far, but as soon as he lost the lead to Doucette, I don't know if he just said enough is enough. Oh, they're spinning now. They're spinning there at the back. I was just talking about him. That was Dittmer. I don't know who he got together with there. That was going to bring out our first yellow.
Steve Williams is involved in this one in the number 92. Caution flag flies for the first time tonight with just about 8 to go before stage number 1 was going to conclude. It was Steve Williams getting into Tyler Dittmer in turn 2. I'm not sure what led to the incident. It looked like a little bit just both drivers running for real estate. Taylor Peacock caught up in this one as well. Unfortunate for the number 81. Here's the move. That was the slightest bit of contact, and it looks like maybe some connection issues involved in there as well as they went into turn 3. And that's all it took for Steve Williams to make contact with Tyler Dittmer. It did not look like malicious intent for that number 92, but just did not leave enough room to the inside. He was about a half truck length up from the inside line too.
And I apologize to Tyler Dittmer in advance, because I was just going to make the point when we were talking about how he got shuffled back from the lead that it's okay to bail out and go to the back of the pack, but you have nowhere to go if an incident happens in front of you or directly to the side of you, like it happened there for the 34 truck of Tyler Dittmer. And you find yourself in these situations when you do hang back, Josh. It's a double-edged sword. You can hang back and avoid a lot of the accidents, but you can hang back and put yourself right in the path of the accident as well.
So first caution of the night on lap number 28 of 135. Stage 1 is going to end after lap number 35. So we'll be going green with not a ton of time remaining in this stage. Handful of drivers down into the pit lane, all of them closer to the back of the field. Stephen Thomas led them in. Huck Wigington came in. Huck Wigington did not touch his box, it looks like. Chris Cinnamon came in, I believe fuel only for the number 3, either fuel only or 2 tires. It was fuel only. Fuel only for Derek Kilgore. Ted Wade got some damage repaired. Same thing with the Keith Bradley. James Morris came in. Looks like Morris came in for a 2-tire stop. And a lot of differing strategies here in the pit lane. James Morris, actually another driver that took fuel only. So a good amount of drivers just coming in to top off with fuel before the end of this stage. Maybe gonna not pit at the end of stage number 1 and be able to run all the way through to stage 2. Remember, 80% fuel capacity in the fuel tanks tonight. So a bit up in the air of what the fuel mileage is going to be, but it looks like a majority of the field, at least closer to the back, Ian, is looking at pitting now and possibly mitigating a pit stop later, as it looks like lights are still on the pace truck, or lights are actually out on the pace truck. We'll be going green next time by.
Yeah, well, it sets yourself up for that strategy, right? It gives the option to not pit at the stage break, and the rest of these leaders up here, like Doucette and LaBeouf on our front row, who have a win already this season, obviously they're going to try to get the stage win to get those extra stage points for the playoffs. But if you're at the back of the pack and you're trying to get yourself off cycle, or maybe look for that win to get yourself in the playoffs, why not, right, Josh?
at this point and at this track, I mean, we talked about it to start the season at Daytona. We talked about it at Talladega a couple of weeks ago, and we're talking about it tonight, and we'll talk about it again when we go back to Talladega in October. These are perfect opportunities for the drivers that maybe not have the best speed on the intermediates. Maybe they're not the best at the short tracks. They can't really rely on the road courses either to log in those wins. This is an equalizer. Even though we're not really talking about as much draft as Daytona or Talladega, this is an equalizing style of racing. I mean, we're already seeing Trey Pitts up at the front. We're seeing Brian Abbott up here. I can mention also edge of the top 5, Jacob Klinkart. Bad qualifying effort, not that great single truck speed, and he is up 15 spots from 20th where he started, back into the top 5. And as the pace truck pulls into the pit lane, Geico restart zone for Brady LaBeouf, and we are back underway from Atlanta. LaBeouf gets a big run with Trey Pitts at the lead of the field. Doucette gonna have to try and cover off Jacob Klinkart. Doucette's gonna be middle 3 wide. The 82 got out of the gas to let the 16 back in. And as they race to turn 2, or turn 3, Klinkart gonna look to the inside on Trey Pitts. He's gonna look to the inside for the race lead. What a run for the 5 off of turn 4. Side by side for the lead as they cross the stripe.
And Klinkert will try to dive down into one now with the 16 and Joey Doucette helping him on the inside line. You saw Doucette, how he did such a great job to push Brady LaBeouf on the outside line. I wonder if he'll be able to do it on the inside now here with Jacob Klinkart and get himself up to the lead again with about 4 laps to go here in the stage, Josh.
Back through turns 3 and 4, the 16 of Doucette tucked in now behind Jacob Klinkart. That a massive run last time off of turn number 4, and he will lead this group now across the start finish line. 4 to go before the end of the stage as Doucette almost looked to the inside. Remember, anything under that white and red line is considered out of bounds. They cannot make passes underneath that line. Klinkart gonna lead the field to the back straightaway. Doucette with a massive shove as they go back to 3.
A huge shove out of the 16 truck of the Doucette actually got Klinkart a little bit unsettled there, but able to hang on to it, and he'll lead the field back to the start finish line here with Doucette all over him. You got to think Doucette's trying to get to the outside of LaBeouf here, but he just can't get enough momentum to clear that 9 truck right now.
Field works their way back through 1 and 2, and middle of the pack, and around goes the 78, and that's a big wreck at the exit of 3. Stephen Thomas flies in. It is the first big one of the night. Richards is in it. Meza's in it. It is a parking lot at the apron of turn 2. And that was a massive incident that will bring us another yellow flag and the end of stage number 1. Stephen Thomas in the 23 is involved, and there was plenty more. James Haney got a piece of it. The number 1 machine got damage of Jason Morales. That started with Richards with a little tap to the number 78 of Keith Haney. And that started a chain reaction of incidents. The calls for checking up over the radio as well did not work out the way a lot of drivers wanted. Here's the replay. 78 gets loose on the inside. Just the tap to Richards. Somebody tapped Meza from behind, and it looks like, Ian, a lot of drivers not having the time to react, not knowing how to react, and they just started piling in.
That's a consequence of a late stage restart with only, 4 or 5 laps to go. Everybody's trying to battle for every position they can at the stage break. And of course, with the restart just bunching everybody up like that, you're bound to see something like that. And you mentioned it, Josh, just nowhere to go once something like that happens in front of you. Even if you get down to the bottom, there's probably somebody already there and you can't see. There's just so much smoke and carnage going on in front of you that you just got to hang on and hope for the best and really just hope that nobody hits you from behind at that point.
That was a big slam to the wall for the 1 of Jason Morales as well. I'm not sure who else got caught up in this one. Lucas Whitehead barely avoided it. One driver with almost nowhere to go on the outside line too. I'm wondering if that was Ted Wade. I'll keep looking at these replays, but staying out on the racetrack, Chris Cinnamon, everybody that did not pit in that original yellow flag in stage number 1 has come into the pit lane now to grab some damage, to grab some damage repair. And they'll continue to try and grab that damage repair. That was Ed Osborne that had nowhere to go, got caught up with the number 55. And if our producer, Zach Johnson, can grab a replay from the 92 of Ed Osborne, or the 42 of Ed Osborne, he got flung into the air off of the wall in turn 2 and slammed onto the ground. Here's the replay. Wreck happening in front. Nowhere to go. The 55 comes up and bam.
A good old wall hanger. That'll happen every once in a while on iRacing.
I don't think that's quite Racecraft TV space program worthy. He did not go up that high.
Maybe Racecraft TV Kerbal space program.
I like that. The 78 who started that incident as well, got loose on the inside, walked away with the least amount of damage as we go on board it. Looks like the 37 of Raul Meza. Again, nowhere to go for him as he got hit from behind.
He didn't have anywhere to react to. Yeah, he got spun before he even had time to react to what was happening in front of him. And it really just kind of unfolded in such slow motion with Haney spinning that it just kind of accordioned the rest of the field. And most of the track was blocked before there was even any place to avoid the actual wreck that was happening because Haney took so long to... I'm not blaming Haney, but his spin happened in slow motion and he just stayed on the racetrack for a long time.
So this will conclude stage number 1, and we get ready for stage number 2, which is now going to be a lot longer than what we were originally expecting. In with us going back to green lap 37, we will be ending stage number 2 at lap 70, when originally this would be only a little bit over 30 laps in length. Now we're going to go a proper 34 lap stint.
Yeah, and I think there's enough fuel to make it, but maybe tires are more of an issue than we're thinking they are, Josh, because we're seeing how loose these trucks are getting and how drivers are getting washed up all on their own, and it's leading to these huge incidents. So it's going to be interesting to see if that stage goes green all the way, if people can hang on for the entire stage, or if we're going to see more of these incidents.
Also noticing these drivers being really loose to start the run as well. So could be tire wear, could be a fairly new racing surface, not with a lot of grip, but we're back to racing. Jacob Klinkart is going to lead the field across the start finish line, and he will take the early lead to turn 1 as Doucette trying to file in. Brady LaBeouf also trying to get there. They'll be side by side through 1 and 2.
And the real benefactor of that is Jacob Klingert in the 5 truck. He's able to get out to a huge run right now. He's going to have LaBeouf and Doucette pushing him, at least for right now. But it looks like Doucette and LaBeouf are going to ditch him and they'll make a run to the outside, Josh, as they head in the 3 and 4.
Working their way back to the front straightaway, and Brady LaBeouf on that outside line. You're looking off the top of the number 5 of Jacob Klinkart as Doucette gives a good shove to the 9 machine there, pushing him into turns 1 and 2. Back to the back straightaway they go, and LaBeouf back in control of this field. We saw it earlier as 2 teammates hit the pit lane. Looks like Ted Wade and Chris Cinnamon gonna head to the pit lane together at the same time.
It's interesting there. I mean, maybe they're working on a team strategy, 2 teammates trying to work on a team strategy there and come back through the pack. But up at the front of the field here, as you see on your screen, Klinkart, LaBeouf, and Doucette still trying to battle out for the lead as well. You also got Hammond there in the 93 truck. He's on the bottom side pushing Klinkart there through turns 1 and 2 right now. Down the backstretch, we'll see if Doucette and LaBeouf can keep the run going. They don't really have much help up there, Josh.
Jacob Klinkart gonna grab that lead back. He's got Tim Hammond behind him. As they race off to the front straightaway again, we'll put 39 laps behind us. And Hammond now gonna lead that outside line first time. And Tim Hammond has been very, very quiet this season. We have heard almost nothing from Tim Hammond. Only 4 starts on the season for him in the BP Racing for Autism entry, but he has raced Indianapolis, Talladega, Homestead, and Daytona, not including tonight here in Atlanta. But remember back to Talladega, Ian, he was running up front almost the entire night, and it was a beautiful run for him. He unfortunately finished 38 after wrecking out, but what a run for him. I remember always seeing him at the front at Talladega.
Well, and we talk about it every time we come to a super speedway race. As you mentioned it earlier in the broadcast, that someone who relatively is somewhat unknown or maybe doesn't have the speed to compete at the top level at every track can find themselves in a position to win here at a super speedway. But we also mentioned, and you mentioned it with Tim Hammond, is you got to put yourself in that spot where you want to win and you're going to be able to win. But at the end of the day, once you get yourself in that spot, it's still another roulette wheel on that final lap. And unfortunately, that's what we saw with Hammond. And like you said, he ended up in, I think it was in the 30s. So a tough night can go really quickly from a great night here, especially in these super speedway races.
And with this being such a smaller track for super speedway type racing, as well as the 00 of Huck Wigington off the pace in turns 3 and 4, it's so much smaller, and you can see how quick they're working their way through this quad oval. It's unlike anything at Atlanta Motor Speedway that we have ever seen. So it's like Daytona. It reminds me a lot of Daytona and like a condensed Daytona, because Daytona is thin, but it's gigantic at 2.5 miles. Atlanta is both thin and small at only about 1.5 miles. So it is such a unique way to do pack racing. Like coming off this corner, instead of getting ready for a short shoot and a tri-oval, look at how harsh they have to flick those wheels to get it to go through the quad oval.
And the quad oval can get you really, really loose as well, and especially when you make that final left-hander setting yourself up for turn 1, you can set the truck up in a loose condition so that when you drive out of the turn 1, it just kind of exacerbates it even more, and you find yourself in a situation where the truck's snapping around on you. And we've seen that a few times already tonight, Josh.
On the inside now, leading is Adam Cantwell. He's like the 55 with more damage. Of course, was involved in that incident off of stage number 1. But the field's going to fight their way back through turns 1 and 2. Trey Pitts outside line, help with Jacob Klinkart. Justin Lumpkin going to give help to Adam Cantwell on the inside. And through turns 3 and 4, still out in front, just barely, is going to be Trey Pitts. Is now the dynamic of this race changes, because running a longer stint through this stage number 2 ending at lap 70, and then stage number 3, Ian's going to be the most interesting, because we know they'll have to pit under the green flag. Question is, when is everybody going to come in, and is it going to be typical Daytona or Talladega, where we see drivers coming into the pit lane with other drivers?
And that's what I'm interested to see as well. And I'm also interested to see if we'll even get a green flag stop. We've seen all of our stops happen under yellow so far, and it seems like there's been enough incidents happening where there isn't going to have to be a green flag stop. But I would be interested to see what happens if we do have to make a green flag stop here, because it's going to be so hard to get down on pit road and slow all the way down to pit road speed, even harder than a Daytona or Talladega, I would think. And kind of just one more of these aspects of the restrictor plate super speedway racing that we talk about all the time. And another one is, you look towards the front row here, Josh, 2 relatively, I don't want to say unknown drivers in this series, but drivers that we don't normally see to the front are commanding the front row right now.
Fighting off of 4, and Klinkart loses a good bit of time to this lead group, and everybody gonna scatter as they go through the quad oval. That's Eric Zimmerman getting a little bit loose there. What a night for Zimmerman. Another one of these drivers that, you know, doesn't have the speed on the normal tracks, and we've seen it before from him, but here at an equalizer of a track for the number 94, he's running in 12th. A great run so far for the 94, and with a possible opportunity to maybe lock himself into the playoffs. But with a 38th currently in the points, not looking too likely. He would need some solid starts still left. 6 starts out of the 8 possible for this season. But Zimmerman has an opportunity to walk into victory lane for the first time in his NASRA career. Same thing with Adam Cantwell and Trey Pitts, who command the race.
Yeah, and it'd be really huge for either of those drivers right now to get that win to almost lock themselves into the playoffs. I think both the drivers, Cantwell and Pitts, would need a little bit more help point-wise to get in, but you got to imagine that win gets you a long way there and then gives you a real shot in the arm confidence-wise going in the last few races here of the regular season.
Back off the corner they go. I was checking past results as well to make sure, and both the drivers at the front of this field right now are winless in NASRA competition so far. We'll see who's going to walk away with the win tonight, and if it will be any of those new drivers. And Cantwell's going to get loose with Pitts. They both wreck, Lumpkin into the wall, and it's the big one again in Atlanta parking lot in turn 4. Doucette is around, Clinkart's around, Pitts and more caught up, in the 78 caught up again. Devin Painter slows to avoid the incident, and again, leaders wreck at the front. And we are back under the yellow flag.
Looks like at the front of the pack, at least, the 8 of Adam Cantwell, who was leading the race at the time, and the 88 of Lucas Whitehead made it through. But about everybody on back, Josh, I would say probably 3rd through 20th was somehow involved in that. We'll take a look at what happened here. There's a little bit of a bump to the 27. He got loose, and then what really starts it here is, yeah, just that hook right there kind of starts it all off.
That was a harsh hit to the wall for Justin Lumpkin. And then once everybody starts wrecking, I mentioned how thin this track is, especially when you're racing 160 plus miles an hour down into turn 2, to turn 3. There's absolutely nothing you can do to avoid that wreck. Hammond gets into Lumpkin, gets into Doucette. Doucette's involved as well. Hard hit to the front end for that 16. Oh my, look at the wreck avoidance from Derek Kilgore to get slowed up. Eric Zimmerman, same thing from him. A lot of the drivers outside of that main pack able to avoid it with some great wreck avoidance, but unfortunate for Jacob Clinkart as well. He was involved in this one. Let's look on board as we see that Ford F-150 try to make it through. Top of the racetrack, on the brakes, on the brakes, on the brakes.
Oh man, that's about as close as you can get, Josh.
That was very, very close to being an incident there for Derek Kilgore, but he was able to make his way through.
I also like the 20. Barely. The 26 of Cody Knott, I liked his strategy as well. I don't know if you saw him at the back of that replay, Josh. He just stopped. He just completely stopped.
That's the only way to avoid the incident. And Adam Cantwell, who of course made contact with Trey Pitts to kind of set off that incident, he's gotten off scot-free. He is still good to go at the front of the pack. Lucas Whitehead able to avoid it as well. He still has some damage to the back end of that truck, but it's going to put Eric Zimmerman into the top 5 for the first time. Brandon Bullock's there as well. Adam Newbert is going to round out the top 5 as the amount of trucks with no damage in this race continues to fall down in numbers. But inside of 20 laps to go before the end of stage number 2, and Adam Cantwell is looking to command this race for a little bit longer.
Well, and another machine that got through that, the 17 Team Watson racing truck of Brandon Bullock, he finds himself just on the outside of the cut line, Josh. So he's now in the top 5. If he can find a way to get up to the front of this race and have a good rest of this run tonight, he can find himself with a win, vaulting himself into the playoffs as well.
Lots of possibilities for those playoffs that are starting to come into fruition tonight. As the lights go back off in the iRacing pace truck, back to side by side, and we'll be heading back to racing here for the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway, the Millie's Restaurant and Catering 200. And we would like to give another shout out to everybody at Millie's Restaurant and Catering tuning in tonight. And you can catch them on a new episode of Guy Fieri's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives coming very, very soon. So make sure to watch out for that on your local listings. Field back to 2x2, and we'll go back to racing with inside 20 to go before the end of stage 2. Lap 70 will be the cutoff for the stage. Adam Cantwell and Lucas Whitehead, the top 2. The 8 and the 88 are going to lead us back to the green flag as the field works their way off of turn 4. iRacing pace truck will make that hard left-hand turn into the pit lane, and we'll go back to racing. Still on the lead lap is 23 out of the 37 cars we had start this evening, and we still have a good amount of them left damage-free in this lead pack. The green flag comes back out. We are back underway from Atlanta. A couple drivers dropping to the bottom early on in the back of the field, but out in front, Cantwell looks to pull away as Whitehead tries to get to the inside, but Zimmerman is there and won.
And this should be exciting, Josh. We got a lot of drivers up to the front of the pack here that aren't used to being here. So we'll see what moves they make to the front. I want to see what Zimmerman does here in this position, and if he's able to make his way past the 8 of Cantwell here into the lead.
Cantwell gonna grab that early lead off the restart. Lucas Whitehead trying to battle back as Zimmerman on the inside. You can see those bumps still on the exit of turn 4, but Zimmerman holds his own as Adam Newbert in his Ford F-150 trying to get up here to fight as well. Brandon Bullock, who was at the back of the field to start this race, how about plus 24, now 23 for him tonight as he rides in 5th. You're on board with the driver, the number 17.
And Brandon Bullock, I mentioned him earlier, sitting just outside that cut line, did a great job avoiding that last wreck, and now finds himself battling up here at the front, trying to push the 88 machine of Whitehead here to the lead, but a little bit of right rear damage. You can see that 88 truck. I wonder if it's going to hurt him at all in the draft, Josh.
Field working their way back through turns 2 and to the back straightaway. Cantwell gonna try and side draft Whitehead back to turn 3. And Bullock still trying to give help to Lucas Whitehead on that outside line, just cannot get there in time. Zimmerman on the inside, loose off of 4, but is able to hold it for a moment as Adam Newbert on the outside line. He's third in line on the inside and falling back a bit. That's the 45 of Dana Shepard as Brady LaBeouf trying to get back into the front of this group, P6.
And right now, that outside line, especially Whitehead and Bullock right now, they just kind of can't seem to really get close enough to each other, Josh, to generate an effective draft. And it's really giving the advantage to Cantwell on the bottom side.
Side by side off of 4 as Cantwell trying to clear the 88 of Whitehead. Just can't do it that time by the start finish. And this lead group starting to develop again as Eric Zimmerman gets loose a little bit more through the quad oval. He's able to save it again, but off the corner, Whitehead trying to side draft door slam off of turn 2 as Cantwell tries to hold the lead.
And now with the Newbert with the 4, he's going to try to, I thought he was going to try to send it 3 wide there for a second, Josh, but didn't have quite enough momentum to get there. He's going to slide in behind Cantwell and then make himself a challenger for the lead.
Back off of turn number 4 and across the start finish line and back to turn 1. Cantwell leads. Adam Newbert shoving him from behind as Lucas Whitehead gives a big gap to behind in Eric Zimmerman. Here comes the 45 of Dana Shepard up here. Devin Painter shows himself at the front for the first time, and a lap machine caught in the middle of all this. You can see that over the top designs, number 3 of Chris Cinnamon, once on the pole, now 2 laps down in the middle of this group.
And a tough run for Chris Cinnamon. You know, he early in the season, just really good runs and really just starting the season off with a win at Daytona. So you know he's used to this style of racing, Josh, but just hasn't been as nice. Caught up in some early accidents that you mentioned already. 2 laps down, just trying to hang on right now.
Cantwell now stuck outside line, brand new race leader in Adam Newbert in the 4. Off of turn 4, it'll be 10 laps to go in the stage this time, and up front, Ford F-150 leads the way. No, Cantwell leads at the line.
And Cantwell's going to lead that outside pack back into turn 1 with Cantwell trying to push him as much as he can. He's looking for some help with the 88 of Whitehead, but anytime that any truck tries to get to Whitehead's back bumper, it seems like there's a little bit of an air bubble right now. You see it with the 94 Zimmerman trying to catch him going into turn 3. He just can't get there, and that's what's helping the inside line right now get developed. The 4 of Adam Newbert is leading that one with the 45 machine of Dana Shepard headlinking right now. And give a shout out to Devin Painter in that 99 X-Side machine. He's been having a real solid run, avoiding a lot of incidents. Now finds himself up there in the top 5. He's looking for some help from Brady LaBeouf on the downside, on the bottom side now as they head out of turns 1 and 2 here down the backstretch, Josh.
Side by side out in front as Cantwell gets a nose in front. Tim Hammond gonna let the field race on by. This time by 8 laps to go in stage number 2. And you can see how important those stage points are to these drivers. They are racing like it's almost the last lap here in as they race back to turn 1. Newbert wants that stage win, but Adam Cantwell is looking for his first stage win of the season as he commands the outside line. What is Lucas Whitehead gonna do? Very new name to the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, and he has an opportunity at a stage win as well.
A lot of these drivers in the top 10 still looking for their first win. So not only are they looking for a stage win, but they're looking for a position to put themselves in a really good spot here for this final stage and look for winning this race. Right now, Newbert's getting himself to a little bit of advantage from the rest of this pack, dealing with a little bit of lap traffic there. Joey Doucette in the 16 is going to dip down, and that's going to be contact between the 45 and the 8. 8's up in the wall, and he's going to collect the 88. 99's going to get through, but that's going to bring out a caution, Josh.
Big wreck now, and Eric Zimmerman's involved. Cantwell in it and more. The 22 wrecks behind. And caution flag back out on the speedway. Zimmerman with engine damage as well. That's going to do his night over. Adam Cantwell, massive damage to the left side of that number 8. And they wreck again close to the end of the stage. I don't believe this will be the end of the stage. We might have a one-lap shootout, as it was 4 wide for a moment. The 45. Oh, actually the 8 of Adam Cantwell got a touch from behind by Lucas Whitehead and just slammed into the car under him, slammed into the wall. And they continue direct. The 94, nowhere to go for Eric Zimmerman. The 23 is Stephen Thomas trying to avoid it on the apron. Also gets caught up in this one. There's the 94. There's the 23, nowhere to go. And the 22 also nowhere to go. The 94 spinning right in front of him.
Yeah, and the 16 of Doucette was trying to get back on the racetrack there, get back up to speed. You can see him there at the bottom of the screen. He just kind of dipped 2 tires over that line, and you can do that. That's okay, as long as you keep all 4 tires below that line. But especially if you're the pack overtaking him, that's such a startling thing for you in that race truck, and it's so hard to avoid. And yeah, it looks like an overcorrection from trying to avoid Doucette there kind of led to that whole chain reaction, Josh. We'll see here who takes... I was going to say, let's see who takes the pick lane here, because we can see some of the same strategy we saw at the beginning of stage 1 there, Josh, where some of the drivers pitted before the stage ended, and then were they able to stay out there at the end of the stage when the leaders pit. So we'll see if we see any more of that now.
Adam Newbert stays out. Looks like top 9 staying on the racetrack, with Keith Bradley coming out of the pit lane. Coming out of the pit lane in 10th. Zach Hartwick 11th, and then a couple other names still trickling their way out of the pit lane. Keith Bradley pitting, and it looks like a fuel only stop for Bradley, fuel only for Zach Hartwick too. Same deal with Kyle Hess, as the top 9 all have stayed out under this caution. 31 laps on the stint for Newbert, LaBeouf, Bullock, Haney, Williams, and Wigington. And then 15 laps on the stint counter for Painter, Klinkart, and Thompson. Everybody else pitting under this yellow flag.
And I mean, really, that's kind of what you're going to see. You're going to see guys towards the back try to get off strategy again. Then you're going to see the leaders stay out and try to get those stage points. And if you're a driver like Newbert at this beginning of the front of this field here, and as you watch him kind of get the tires warmed up there behind the pace truck, you're just trying to hang on here to the end of the stage and get yourself some stage points, and then figure out what you want to do with track position and pitting after that. Again, not very many tires changes we saw, Josh. Really just fuel stops for these drivers right now.
And that will be lights out, it looks like, on the iRacing pace truck. So we will get a 3-lap shootout at the end of stage number 2. Newbert leads, Devin Painter on the outside. Brady LaBeouf finds himself right back up to the front of this group. Brandon Bullock in 4th. Keith Haney is going to be P5. Steve Williams, Huck Wigington, Jacob Klinkart, Zach Hartwick, and more back through the edge of the top 10. And 3 laps to go in stage number 2. And this is going to be a very, very fun restart to watch, because we know how important these stage wins can be to these drivers.
Yeah, it's like a green-white checkered right in the middle of the race, so this is going to be definitely something to watch as well. And we saw it happen earlier in the race. A caution came out right before the stage end, and you see drivers battling for position in a tight racetrack after a restart. Something's bound to happen, Josh.
Something's bound to happen indeed, with Adam Newbert on the inside, Devin Painter on the outside. 2 drivers that are currently winless this season in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series Season 5. Let's see if either of them can walk away to victory lane, or at least with a stage win at the end of stage number 2. Geico restart zone for Adam Newbert. He's back on the gas, and we are back underway at Atlanta. 3 laps to go, and on the outside line, Painter can go nowhere up through the gears. Brady LaBeouf gets the shove that he needs to go to second place. Now he'll tuck in behind the 4 of Adam Newbert to the back straightaway.
And again, we see Brady LaBeouf up there towards the front of this race. Just had a really good run so far, Josh. Even been caught up in a few incidents, but that 9 machine is still looking good. And you can tell he's definitely still faster. He's all over the back bumper of Newbert there as they come to the stripe with 1 lap to go in the stage. Or, I'm sorry, 2 laps to go in the stage this time.
Back across the start and finish line through the quad oval. LaBeouf gonna look to the outside. Does he go for it? Yes, he does. To turn 1, the 9 and LaBeouf looking to take home the stage number 2 victory. Devin Painter tucked in behind the 9. That's Adam Newbert on the inside, trying to hold off that spot. LaBeouf with a big shove now from the 99 of Devin Painter, trying to go for the race lead. Painter gets off of him for a moment. He looked up top 3 wide, didn't go for it. Here comes Brandon Bullock and the rest of the pack behind. White flag in stage number 2.
And right now, side by side between LaBeouf and Newbert as we head into turn 1. But right now, Painter is giving some great help to LaBeouf on that outside line. But it's starting to form on the bottom side for Newbert as well. He's got about 3 or 4 trucks who's going to be able to catch up to him. But right now, the 9 and the 99 are a little bit better linked up.
Working their way now through turns 3 and 4. Painter getting off of the 9. The 9 going to cover off the spot on Adam Newbert. Yellow flag in the hand of Barney the Flagman as Newbert looks back to the bottom. Final time out of 4 and through the quad oval for the stage win. It's a photo finish.
I don't even know.
Brady LaBeouf, I think. Yes, the 9 of Brady LaBeouf is your stage number 2 winner.
Oh my goodness, that was something else, Josh. I thought LaBeouf, I thought he made the wrong move moving up to block Painter, and I thought that was going to give the stage win to Newbert, but I guess LaBeouf got him by literally inches.
A literal photo finish at the line, and of course we are at the mercy of iRacing in this one. Whoever is leading at the moment of caution is going to keep that spot. And let's see, off of 4, Newbert to the bottom, LaBeouf off the corner. Painter looked high.
I can't tell.
I mean, that was literal inches separating these two, and I'm not sure if we'll get maybe a difference in the stage winner based on race control, or if it'll be whoever leads at the moment of caution, because LaBeouf was in front of the 4 when the caution flag was thrown. Here's another look. I think it still might have been LaBeouf at the line.
Just barely, if anything. It's hard to see with the flag stand there, but man, that is really close, Josh. That's one of the closest finishes I've ever seen, definitely for a stage.
Almost telling it by the tailgates there. You can't even tell by the nose of those trucks who was in front, but it will be Brady LaBeouf with your stage number 2 win. LaBeouf leads the field into pit lane, and for the first time really in this race, it is the field. Everybody on the lead lap comes into the pit lane. They want a completely full 80% capacity fuel tank before they start stage number 3, because they will have to pit through this stage, Ian, if they're not careful.
And LaBeouf just took at least right side tires there. I saw the jack go up on the 9 machine, kind of launch on the rest of the field. Let's see what they do. LaBeouf's going to take 4 tires, it looks like, Josh.
And off of pit lane, who wins the race off? And it will be Devin Painter. That is first. LaBeouf taking tires. Painter, Bradley, and Morris beat the 9 off of the pit lane. They all were fuel only on that stop, so they get back onto the racing surface. And now we will see how this 3rd stage is going to go, because Ian, this is going to be completely different than any other stage that we have had tonight. Yes, we've seen the exciting racing. We've seen these drivers racing like it was the last lap. Well, soon it will be the last lap, and possibly the first time and only time we're going to see green flag pit stops tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be, you see up on the timing screen right now, at least 63 laps to go. It'll probably be around 61 to 60 when we restart and get going with here at this final stage. So a longer stint, obviously, than we've seen before. We're used to that with this style of stage racing. But that green flag pit stop is definitely going to be key if we do see it. We've talked about it all night long. Are teammates going to go together? Are there going to be individual stops? Can you afford the luxury of pitting on your own, or do you have to go with a pack and stay in your pack? And that's the only way you're going to hope to kind of win this race if it comes down to it. So really interesting decisions for these crew chiefs to make on top of the box going into the final stage here, but that's why these drivers show up, and that's why they're virtual crew chiefs if they have one. I don't know if they get paid the big bucks, but they're at least appreciated, Josh.
Lights back out of the pace truck. We're going to start stage number 3 right about now. It'll be 61 laps remaining in this race. Taking the outside line will be the 99 at Devin Painter. Inside line, Keith Bradley in the number 29. First time we're seeing Keith Bradley up here at the front of the field as well. Same thing for James Morris inside of that second row. LaBeouf, we know he's got a fast truck. How about Jacob Klinkart finding himself back into the top 5 even after getting caught up in an incident towards the end of stage number 2. Great run for the 5 so far tonight, Ian, and I'm looking for him to put in another performance just like he did at Talladega, where he almost got that win. He finished P3, and that was the first podium finish he had of the season. He's looking to do it again.
Yeah, and right now he does have a little bit of a damage to that 5 truck, and there's a few clean trucks out there, Josh, but there isn't many trucks out on the racetrack right now that don't have some kind of damage. So usually we think that any kind of aero damage is fatal in a race like this. Not so much tonight, where everybody's had so much issues staying out of incidents.
Painter and Bradley on the front row. LaBeouf desperate to get this one going off the Geico restart zone. Back underway. The 99 at Painter going to shoot out of that restart with the 9 of Brady LaBeouf right behind. Keith Bradley on the inside, going to use the inside line and help from James Morris. Newbert trying to get around Morris on that inside line. They almost look 3 wide, but to the back straightaway. Pack still trying to form up as Keith Bradley is going to go to the back of the field.
Yeah, Keith Bradley's have enough. He doesn't want any of that smoke right now. But you saw LaBeouf on that restart, Josh. He was so ready to go, had a really good jump. Devin Painter wasn't quite ready to go, but kind of got it up to speed. But that's why you see LaBeouf there got such a great job, and now he's trying to chase down that 99 truck to help him win stage 2.
Back to turn number 1. Painter right in front of Brady LaBeouf, and right behind Morris and Klinkart there as well. Klinkart on the outside line. He'll join LaBeouf, Newbert, and Moore as the field races to turn 2. Morris alone on the inside. Now gets the help from the 4 of Adam Newbert. 2 Ford F-150s tucked in against each other on the inside line. Off of turn 4. Inside of 60 laps to go.
And a really good job right now by James Dean Morris, having himself up at the front of the field for the first time today. Really hanging in there with the 99 of Devin Painter on the bottom line. The 5 of Klinkart trying to give the push to LaBeouf on the outside line. And we've seen it all night tonight. Once LaBeouf finds that outside line, especially the lead of that outside line, Josh, he's hard to pass.
Oh, and turned is Klinkart hard into the outside wall. Newbert almost gets turned. Bullock does as well. They all manage to save it somehow, and we stay green. Newbert, Bullock, and Klinkart with damage, but the green flag stays on the racetrack. Newbert with massive damage in that number 4. Smoking engine and all. Still green flag on the racetrack in what was an insane moment there off of turn number 2.
And that really split up our top 3 trucks here. There's now about a 3-second gap to the rest of the field here between the 99, the 9, and the 47 here of James D. Morris, the 3rd truck in that line. So now it really throws a whole nother dynamic, especially if you're these top 3 trucks right now into this final stage, Josh. You're kind of separated from the rest of the field, and you can run your own race there until that final pit stop.
Looking at the replay through turn 2, I mean, it didn't even look like it was much of Adam Newbert's fault or much of Jacob Klinkart's fault. 43 at James Morris kind of came up a little bit, tagged the 5, and from there, it was just a chain reaction of kind of other drivers pinballing off of each other. There's the 5 of Klinkart up into the wall, but then Bullock gets into the 4 of Newbert. I don't know where he hit the front end of that number 4, but it was almost immediate engine damage. That was right there. I mean, it was almost immediate engine damage. It hit just perfectly in that radiator, and that led to that damage being enough to expire that engine.
Yeah, I wonder if he already had a little bit of front end damage there, and that just was the final nail in the coffin. But you're right, it was a great shot directly to the front of that radiator, right with the corner of a truck. And usually those radiators don't like getting hit like that, Josh.
This is the second pack on the track, and right now, LaBeouf, Morris, and Painter are in a zip code of their own. This is the second pack, fourth on back, that is a little better formed up than the lead pack, mainly because they just have more trucks. As the 2 and 10 Wade gets desperate, he hits the 45, and that almost caused another incident, but that was borderline there in for Ted Wade. He almost went to the bottom of the racetrack and almost went under that double line. And I think the 45 might have gotten DQ'd for incident points as well. He was almost immediately gone from the race server.
Yeah, it shows him on pit road right now. So I do think the 45 was disqualified. I think if he wasn't disqualified, Josh, we would have saw a larger incident there for sure.
Working their way back through turn 1. This is the lead group, 3 cars deep. And now Keith Bradley is going to lead the second group from 4th on back. And through turn 1, Bradley and Kilgore have pulled away a little bit, and this lead group has pulled away to the tune of multiple seconds now.
Yeah, and you mentioned that second group is starting to get formed up there, but while they're struggling to get formed up, this lead pack just continues to check out. When that incident first happened, it was about a 3-second gap. Now it's opened up to about an 8-second gap all the way back to the 29 truck there of Keith Bradley, and really going to be difficult for that second pack to try to catch up to this first pack here, especially if this race stays green for a long time, Josh.
Top 3 still pulling away with LaBeouf and a big shove from James Morris. I mentioned James Morris, where he's at currently this season. Hasn't been the best run for him. 7 starts, P30 in the points, and not a finish inside the top 10 yet. But he's tucked in second place right behind LaBeouf.
Yeah, really excellent run for the 47 machine of James D. Morris, that Ford F-150 there. Again, we haven't really seen him towards the front of any race so far this season. We mentioned it so far in this broadcast, how it gives an opportunity for these drivers that don't get a chance to run up towards the front of the field to really make a challenge here for the lead, and doing a great job up front. Just trying to stick on the back bumper there, Brady LaBeouf, and try to tick these laps away. Just put yourself in a position where you can make that final pass there at the end. And that's all you really can do here in a situation like this. Just try to move forward and stick with your pack. And you just got to kind of click down these laps here, make that one final pit stop, and then just hope you're going to find yourself in a position where you can win the race. Here's kind of our second pack right here, led by Keith Bradley, and a really astute observation there by Keith Bradley at the start of the stage to kind of dip out and find himself kind of farther back in that field. Really missed that first incident that caused this split up between these two packs right now, and now finds himself leading this pack going into turn 3. A little bit of help there from the, I think that's the 5 of Klingard. No, it's not the 5 of Klingard. It's a little bit fact from there. It's the Kilgore. That's another great run for the 11 machine of Derek Kilgore. He's found himself in a lot of incidents that weren't his fault this season, but doing a great job right now helping that 29 in that second group, Josh.
LaBeouf still leads, Morris and Painter behind. And the second group, even with more trucks, is not catching. As we have one driver slow apron to turn 2. That's Joey Doucette in the 16. But just that second group is not catching. The front group, even though they are only 3 trucks strong, is just nowhere even close right now. 7 seconds is that gap. Now that they get formed up single file, they're starting to etch into that lead group, but just not enough.
They are starting to get linked up, though, in that second group. I'm watching the lap times now, Josh, and lap times for Keith Bradley that last time around was 31.8, and the leaders in that first pack are running 32.1s, 32.2s. So they are starting to get formed up there in that second line and starting to catch that lead pack, but really they're just going to have to stay single file like this and try to whittle down that gap. And maybe this second group pits together and tries to undercut that first group. That would be one strategy they could employ, but that's a lot of these drivers talking together, especially on voice chat, and maybe having their spotters go over and talk to some other spotters. Not as easy as it sounds, Josh.
Especially at such a unique track like this, Atlanta, and this pack racing style. 3 trucks that command this race. and they were gaining, but now up to 7.6 seconds in that second group. I think what we're seeing here, Ian, is yes, the draft is important. You are going to need somebody to work with, but it's not as important as Daytona or Talladega, where the more vehicles you have in the pack, the faster you're going to be going. Because right now, 3 trucks command this race and are not just holding a gap, but they are also, on some laps, extending a gap over a line that is now single file, roughly about 10 trucks strong.
Another thing I think that's factoring into the way that this first group is able to make such a gap on that second group is when they encounter lap traffic like they have been a little bit here. That first group only has 3 trucks in it, so they're able to navigate around lap traffic a lot easier than a group that has 9, maybe 10 trucks in it as well. And that's where you're starting to see disparity on lap times. So it looks like anytime that second group catches up to a lap car, they lose about a second in their lap times, and then once they're in clear air again, you start to see the lap times come back down.
Back to turn 1 for the group that is chasing down your current 3 leaders. Keith Bradley, Derek Kilgore, Steve Williams, Ted Wade, all in this line that is now charging like a freight train. Back to turn 3. We're going to go inside of 40 laps to go very shortly. 43 laps to go now as the field works their way across the start-finish line in the quad oval. Top 3 work their way around the lap machine, and same thing now as they let Derek Kilgore go to the outside line, and the field charging on underneath him as they've got now 2 lapped machines in front of them. The 22 is also going to be coming back to face them soon. That is Jeffrey Sickles, and I believe the other lap machine is going to be would not be the 23 Stephen Thomas, the 94 of Eric Zimmerman as he lets the field by on the apron.
And just a real scatter pack that we have to this entire racetrack right now, Josh. The leaders are still checking away on this second pack right now, and this second pack is just doing everything they can to try to reel in this first 3 pack of leaders here. You mentioned that we're getting within 40 laps to go, and you're starting to see some drivers drop out of that second pack and move their way to the back. I think the time for setting back and dropping back and hoping things happen in front of you is kind of over, especially when you're in a situation like this where you have to hurry up and catch a pack in front of you that's continuing to put time on you. I think that second line really needs to focus on trying to get as organized as they can if they have any chance of winning this race, especially if you're 29 of Keith Bradley. But you can see it right now on your screen. Again, once they get to lap traffic, this whole group kind of just splits up, Josh.
They have split up, and now the call from Brady LaBeouf over the iRacing voice chat. What are we thinking, James and Devin? So I think LaBeouf is starting to think about pit stops, and he's going to start to think about when that group is going to pit. They all want to pit together. If they do, they'll stay together on the racetrack. This isn't like a normal Atlanta race on the old configuration where it was, you know, a normal intermediate race. You could pit basically whenever you want through that fuel window, and you would come out relatively around the same time you came in. But in this pack racing, you have to come in with friends or else you will lose a ton of time and a ton of track position as well.
And I think the disadvantage, especially if the second group decides to pit all at once, falls here with the first group, because they're going to have a smaller pack getting back up to speed, Josh. And especially if this second group here, led by Keith Haney, decides to pit before that first group does, of Brady LaBeouf, Morris, and Painter, I think there's going to be some real big issues for that first group right there, and I think they're going to get overtaken relatively quickly. So, yeah, good job by Brady LaBeouf, that 9 truck in the front of that first pack, to kind of start the discussion and say, hey guys, we got to start making a decision here right now. This is really important if we're going to want to have to win this race.
Inside 40 to go, 38 laps to go now in the Millie's Restaurant and Catering 200. This is round number 9 of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series for Season 5. So far this season, Chris Cinnamon, Joey Doucette, Ted Wade, Tyler Dittmer, Justin Lumpkin, and Brady LaBeouf have all gone to victory lane. That is 6 names. LaBeouf leading right now, could be the only driver other than Ted Wade to win multiple races this season, or we see James Morris, Devin Painter, or Keith Bradley grab the win, the current winless drivers in the top 5, they would add their name to that list and make it 7 unique drivers winning in 9 rounds this season. And right now, Ian, it looks like Keith Bradley holding up this line as the 2 of Ted Wade has help from his lap down teammate in Chris Cinnamon in the 3.
And this is such a difficult position if you're a 2, the Ted Wade here, if you're behind Keith Bradley, I'm sorry, yeah, if you're behind Keith Bradley, because you don't want to kind of bail on him too early. And you see there the teammates are running together right now trying to catch this lead back. But you kind of mentioned it right now, Bradley is kind of holding those guys up, and that is kind of just being in the front of that line and taking the air right on your nose and not having it taken off your nose. But if I were these drivers, especially teammates, I would kind of think about maybe shuffling Bradley into the middle. You see that little bit of damage he has there to the right side of the 29. We saw it earlier with Lucas Whitehead. That rear end damage kind of does some interesting things to the front of these trucks, it seems, Josh.
And here comes this second group that has now brought that gap inside of 5.5 seconds. It's down to 5.3 to be exact. So the top 3, if they pit, that might be their best bet to hold this large lead, because we know, Ian, especially at Daytona and Talladega, and we're not exactly sure how it's going to work here, but when a faster train is catching at such a rate as these guys are right now, they kind of just blow by whoever they see. As we see a couple of drivers trickle into the pit lane, that's Dan Hagan that's in, and Brandon Bullock that is in. And the 55 is calling to pit lane this time by Robbie Richards. Lets this group by. James Haney 7 laps down, just sped at the entry to the pit lane as well in the number 55. But as they cross the line, with the rate of speed that second group is going to be gaining on this lead 3, I mean, they're either going to blow right past them, or maybe they might just fall back into line. This top 3 needs to be careful of what happens.
Well, yeah, I think if you're this top 3, you're in control right now. And the more you let this continue to go, and the more you give the opportunity for the second pack to pit in front of you, they now have the decision when they're going to stop their momentum. Right now, as we see the front 3 leaders, they're pitting right now, Josh. I think this is a good call, because now it forces this second group to pit after them. And that's going to slow down all their momentum, and that second group is going to get back up to speed and have to be getting off of pit road when that first group is going to be back up to speed here. So really good job if you're in those top 3 trucks to get to pit road now before that second group.
32 to go. LaBeouf has hit the pit lane. Top 3 are in. Does this second group now make it in to the pit lane? Bradley gonna lead them by. Bradley stays out. The entire second group is going to stay on the racetrack. Whitehead comes in. Zimmerman is also in, but the rest of the field goes right on by the outside of the racetrack. LaBeouf and Morris together coming out of the pit lane. They lost Devin Painter by a couple of seconds on the racetrack. Now everybody from 7th on back, 1 lap down. When's the second group going to pit? When are we going to see Bradley, Wade, Williams, Haney, Kilgore, and more come in?
And I would have thought that would have been that time, and we see 1 truck from that group go, but there really doesn't seem to be much control here. Yeah, it looks like Williams dives the pit group. There doesn't seem to be coordination here between the second group, Josh. I don't think they necessarily have a plan to pit together. I think they're just kind of splitting off as they see fit.
That is exactly what it looks like is happening. I'm wondering if Ted Wade will try and pit with Keith Bradley. They made a little bit of contact off the exit of turn 4 last time by. And the 3 of Chris Cinnamon, remember, is a lap down. He is just riding at the edge of this group right now and helping his teammate Ted Wade in the process, and that over the top designs number 2. Inside 30 to go, 29 laps remaining. And this lead group still is not coming into the pit lane. Where Brady LaBeouf is, I think he's got a good opportunity to hold the lead once all the pit stops have cycled their way through, because he is the current net race leader. but he's still got to wait for the driver to come in, and the 3 gets turned. Cinnamon is around, and the caution flag is going to fly, and that is going to be a gift for Kilgore, Bradley, Wade, Haney, and Hartwick.
Yeah, that's... Oh my goodness, and this is gonna... I think that Brady LaBeouf is gonna be the first truck 1 lap down, so it might work out for him. But yeah, that first group that pit, that definitely split them up, because that, I believe, unless they stay around for the wave around, might catch Morris and Painter 1 lap down unless they do get the wave around, Josh. We'll see what happened here going into turn number 3. See what caused this, and we see it's the 3 of Cinnamon getting loose there, and then he gets collected by 1 other car. Really good job by the rest of the field to try to avoid there. There's Keith Haney on the front stretch locking it up there, so a good job from him not to collect any more contact after that initial accident. See again what happened here from another angle. You see the 78 of Haney there. That's not going to be where the incident starts. You want to watch the 3 truck, and looks like that was almost a self-spin. Kind of caught the apron almost, it looks like, and that's kind of what set that whole thing off. But really unfortunate there for Chris Cinnamon. He's definitely not the one to see that come out, because he was still at that point on the lead lap. Just a huge run there. Once the Cinnamon got loose, just kind of collected by another truck. Really nowhere for anybody to go, especially at that kind of closing rate. You see him sitting there on pit road, probably has quite a few repairs here. That'll bring us to 27 laps to go in our race tonight. Of course, want to give another quick shout out to the people over at Millie's Restaurant and Catering for sponsoring that race over down in Daytona Beach, Florida. I believe North Daytona Beach, Florida. So really awesome to have everybody at Millie's out here watching with us tonight for the Millie's Restaurant and Catering 200. Now getting into the final stages, 27 laps to go. And so it's going to be a good old-fashioned shootout here from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway here in Hampton, Georgia. See whose race it's going to be so far. Right now, Keith Haney is showing as your race leader. I still think things are going to cycle out a little bit here. We might see a wave around or 2, because the 34 machine of Tyler Dittmer is right behind the pace truck as well, but I believe he's 1 lap down. So we'll see what happens there. I think he's staying out for the wave around right now. But it's going to be an interesting position to see what happens with the rest of our drivers here. I think once this goes back to green flag racing, Brady LaBeouf is going to cycle out as your race leader. You're starting to see some trucks get a wave around now. Looks like Dittmer is going to get a wave around, so it looks like possibly Haney is going to be our leader coming back to the green flag here, with Ted Wade to the outside. Right now there's no sign of Ted Wade. That's the 47 machine. Might be waiting on wave around still for the 47 here. There's Ted Wade coming into the picture now. So as the field here gets kind of situated for this restart, we might go 1 more lap under caution here, because there seems to be a little bit of confusion, but going to be at least 25 laps to go, maybe even 24 when we get back to green flag racing. Lights are still on at the pace truck, so I think we're extending 1 more lap here as we get the field situated. Haney, Wade, Kilgore, Bradley, Hartwick, your top 5. LaBeouf, Painter, Morris, Williams, and Knott round out your top 10. With that caution coming out in the middle of green flag pit stops, Brady LaBeouf is your last truck on the lead wrap, which leaves Devin Painter, the first truck, 1 lap down. So we go back to green flag racing. Only going to be 6 trucks on the lead lap here fighting for the final positions. So any truck 1 lap down is going to be looking for another yellow to get themselves a lap back, get back on the lead lap if they're going to have a hope to win this race. But some names that stick out that haven't won a race yet this season. Derek Kilgore, the 11 truck, finds himself in 4th place. Zach Hartwick in the 24. Heath Bradley in the 29 machine as well. Got some drivers up here who already have a few wins. You got Ted Wade leading this race right now, and Brady LaBeouf in the 9 truck in 6th place when we go back to racing. So a mix of experience levels through the fields here.
back into turn number 1 for the field as they get ready to go back to racing. And inside of 25 laps to go in, this is crunch time. I mean, Keith Haney up in the front of this field. Remember, this season, he has not gotten a win yet. And looking at Ted Wade, of course, the 3-time winner this season. Keith Bradley, winless. Derek Kilgore, winless. Zach Hartwig, winless. The only driver out of the drivers that had already pitted to get back onto the lead lap, Brady LaBeouf, after getting the wave around and the free pass. Morris, Williams, Painter, Knott, Bullock, Dittmer, and more trapped 1 lap down. They're going to need multiple cautions to try and get it back. So we're going green in a full pack of trucks with only 6 being on the lead lap. This is going to be a really, really interesting way to finish out this race. And the field works their way off of 4. They'll see the green flag from Barney the Flagman. Pace truck into the safety of the pit lane. Geico restart zone for the number 78 at Keith Haney. He is the control truck. Let's go back to racing. 24 laps left to settle it in Hotlanta. Shuffling around further back, but Ted Wade on the outside, no help for him. Is he going to have enough momentum to stretch it all on the outside of turn number 2? He can't do it. Yes, he can. And Ted Wade going to get barely in front for the race lead, and he clears the 78. Here comes Kilgore and Bradley to keep the fight going.
And Bradley make the move down to the bottom side there, heading into turn 3, going to try to get up to the bumper there of his teammate Ted Wade. And we've mentioned so far is now actually correct that Bradley's going to dive to pit road. I don't know if he's serving a penalty or what happened there, but teammates are important. So definitely, if you're Ted Wade, you want to see your teammate behind you. You don't want to see the 78 of Keith Haney breathing down your neck.
Back off to the back straightaway, and Ted Wade, very familiar territory for him. James Morris is going to go around the outside. He is 1 lap down. He is only going to get his lap back. This will be the same thing for the 92 of Steve Williams on that outside line. He's the white and yellow truck on the outside line, giving a shove to Morris. So both of them will receive their laps back now. And fighting through turn 1, they're not going to make it easy as Ted Wade forces the 92 up the track and to the back straightaway. Ted Wade still holds the lead. Keith Haney trying to find a way by. We're only watching the red, white, and blue truck of the number 2 and the 78 purple, black, and teal truck. Those 2 are on the lead lap. Everybody else around is 1 lap down or more.
And such a weird situation that we have right now, Josh, with those differing pit strategies. Some of those trucks that pitted before the caution came out and some of the trucks that pitted afterwards, including some of those lap trucks. So that's why you're seeing such a weird mix of leaders and lap cars up at the front of the pack right now. Oh, yeah, also there's only 6 trucks on the lead lap as well. I don't know if we mentioned that yet.
Morris able to get his lap back, and he is still holding that spot over the 2 of Ted Wade. 20 laps to go this time. Are they done wrecking? Remember, we had 2 opportunities at a green-white checker. I should mention that because now we're getting to the later stages of a super speedway race. So I will say that it will be 2 attempts at a green-white checker if we get to that point. On board with Ted Wade looking off the back of the rear deck lid. There's Keith Haney. And I mentioned how this would be a big win for Keith Haney. So far this season, it's been relatively smooth sailing. He is very, very good to the cut line. He has had multiple top 5s now. He's had a 2nd place finish at the Nashville Super Speedway, but the last 3 races, a 39th finish at Talladega, 29th at Darlington, and then he was able to squeeze out a top 10 at Indianapolis, but still winless when it comes to the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. He's looking to try and break that winless streak if he can do it tonight. He's now got Devin Painter on his outside, another lap machine looking to get his lap back. The next lead lap car that is in this group is the Ford F-150 of Derek Kilgore, and you can see that blacked out truck way behind the 8 ball in this group.
And right now, if you're Haney, you're kind of feeling that you're like the Ryan Blaney almost of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. You've been so consistent all season long, like you mentioned, Josh, with the exception of a few hiccups recently. but you think that your time is coming for that win, and it's only a matter of time for these drivers that found themselves up to the front of the field to finally break through into victory lane. Brady LaBeouf comes to mind, where it took so long for him to finally break through at Indianapolis, and that 78 machine of Keith Haney is looking to try to get the win so far. And another thing as well is, considering going into the playoffs, he doesn't want Ted Wade to get this win, Josh. Ted Wade already has 3 wins. This would be his 4th win on the season. That's just going to make it even harder in the championship battle for anybody chasing him.
16 laps to go, and off the pace is Keith Haney. He falls outside of the lead pack in the number 78. Is he taking a trip to the pit lane? Yes, he is. With 17 to go, Haney's into the pit lane. He had 46 laps on the stint, and it was too much. So the 78 pits. That means everybody else in this race, for the most part, looks to be good to the end on fuel. But now Ted Wade, a full second of a gap and multiple lapped vehicles, keeping him safe at the front of the field.
And really, if you're Ted Wade with 15 laps to go coming to the stripe this time by, you're kind of just surviving in a hornet's nest of lap traffic, trying to work that draft as much as you can. He's now caught up to the back bumper of his teammate there in the 29 truck, so that's a welcome sight for Ted Wade. But you still got to survive 15 more laps here at Atlanta, hot Atlanta, as you said, Josh. And you mentioned the green-white checkered attempts that we have, 2 of them here tonight. It wouldn't be a super speedway race if we didn't chip into at least one of those.
Field works back to 3 and 4. 14 to go at the line this time. Gap now under a second. You can see Derek Kilgore trying to fight his way back up here, but Ted Wade with the lead right now has been an unstoppable force in this championship so far. 3 wins. He's looking for 4 tonight. And the running order got so shaken up once we had that yellow flag right in the middle of green flag stops, and that trapped a lot of trucks 1 lap down. And it's unfortunate. We were looking at a really, really exciting finish, and then kind of all went into pieces there in once that caution came out, because with 13 to go, top 6 on the lead lap, and only 3 of them are in this lead group. Brady LaBeouf 3 seconds off of this group, and Derek Kilgore trying to fight through lap machines to get up to the 2.
And what you mentioned, it's just a very broken sequence to this race right now, with all these trucks 1 lap down, and it makes it confusing if you're a truck that's on the lead lap, or even if you're one of these trucks that finds himself 1 lap down in this battle for the lead. Is do I try to get my lap back if that caution comes out? Because if that caution comes out, I'm right back in this race. You know what I mean? There's only going to be me and a few more trucks on the lead lap, so I want to let these leaders race for the win, but at the same time, a caution comes out, I could be racing for the win if I get my lap back.
Back on board with the 2 of Ted Wade. It'll be 11 to go, this time by the stripe. Keith Bradley able to get 1 of his laps back. He now sits 1 lap down. James Morris now stuck in this line. He's got Devin Painter in front of him. And 11 to go. Who else is going to catch up to this group? Because Brady LaBeouf has caught them. He is back in the fight proper with help from Chris Cinnamon and Tyler Dittmer behind. Derek Kilgore is stuck outside line above Steve Williams in the 92. He's got Lucas Whitehead there as well. He's right on the outside right there. You can see him on the outside line, and now he's got Brady LaBeouf behind. So can the 2nd and 3rd place drivers make a run at Ted Wade for the win? 10 laps to go. What's going to happen as they race through 1?
And I think if you're this outside line here of Kilgore and LaBeouf, you got to try to work together. And if you're going to try to have anything for Ted Wade, and you see the run right now that the 9 machine is getting on the 11 of Kilgore with the onboard camera for that NRE power truck here on the hood. And really, that's all you got to do. Is there's a big checkup here going into 3 and 4, some trucks driving down to the bottom, and that's not going to make it any easier for these guys to check to leaders, Josh.
And the field's going to break up a little bit through the quad oval, but that still keeps LaBeouf and Kilgore together on the outside line. They need to gain up more time, though. 9 laps to go. And as the field races off of turn number 2, this is where it starts to ramp up in a proper super speedway finish. Only 3 drivers remain on the lead lap, and it looks like they are all going to be forces in this race win, as LaBeouf and Kilgore trying to gain back time on the outside. And here they come with help from Cinnamon.
Yeah, and they're making it work right now. Kilgore and LaBeouf had both a faster lap time than Ted Wade that time around, and they're linked together on the outside now with Cinnamon on the outside, but a big wiggle there for Kilgore. He's into the wall. I don't know if he can hold on to it, Josh. That's him down to the bottom. I'm not sure.
That was a 38 going down to the bottom of the racetrack. That was Dane Hagen. LaBeouf goes to second but loses a ton of time. Kilgore to third. LaBeouf now 1.2 seconds off of your race leader, Ted Wade, but they continue to race very aggressively up in the front of this field. Remember, Ted Wade is racing no trucks around him. Every single truck in this lead line is one lap down or more, and Wade is trying to fight his way past Bradley.
And LaBeouf and Kilgore, right as they were getting the momentum, it kind of just all fell apart on him. And you see LaBeouf back there with the 34 of Ditmore trying to make that outside line work, but coming to 6 laps to go this time to the stripe, Josh. I don't know if they have enough time to catch Ted Wade.
I don't think they do at this point either. 6 laps to go. LaBeouf is coming. He's half a second back. Help on the outside. He has his old drafting partner from the start of this race, Tyler Ditmer, behind, and he will catch up now side by side with Williams. He'll clear Williams. James Morris is going to slide up to the outside line, and LaBeouf is going to have to draft with him if he wants this race lead. Here comes Brady LaBeouf. Does he look middle 3 wide off the corner? He does. LaBeouf wants the lead. Now it's one-on-one between him and Ted Wade as Wade almost makes contact with Morris on the outside.
Oh, there is contact.
No touch.
I think Ted Wade was disqualified. Or he's blinking, one of the two. Oh my goodness, that would have been something else. I thought when he blinked out there, he was disqualified for sure, but that shakes up the field again, Josh. But Brady LaBeouf is still there. He's on the bottom now.
LaBeouf gonna have to give a push to Whitehead. He looks to the inside. This is for the race lead. The 9 versus the 2. One of the only 5 drivers left on the lead lap, but the 9 can't get by the 88. Now the 3 of Chris Cinnamon goes to the outside line, and he's gonna help teammate Ted Wade try and keep this lead side by side as they race off of 2. Keith Bradley on the outside almost makes contact with your leaders, but Brady LaBeouf is gonna go back to the race lead as they go to 3.
But that separates LaBeouf and Wade there now to the 29 of Haney. Herbs is going to try to drop down and help the 2 of Ted Wade, but he got separated from his teammates there. LaBeouf now to the outside line. The 2 of Ted Wade is going to try, they're going to put Whitehead 3 wide, battling for the lead, heading back into turn 1, Josh, and the Whitehead's going to get loose.
The 2 gave a hip check to the 88 of Whitehead, and now Wade takes the lead back. 3 laps to go. Only 2 remain when they come across the start-finish line this time. Now LaBeouf is going to pull up side by side with Bradley. Lap machines going by everywhere as they race through 3 and 4. 2 laps to go, and Ted Wade has a little bit of a cushion over himself and LaBeouf. What can the 9 do with no help behind?
He's got no help behind, and the 29 is doing all he can to keep the 9 off of the door of the 2 of Ted Wade. The 9 trying to get there in side draft as much as they can, and just more lap traffic stacked up in front of him, making it so there's nowhere for anybody to go. Ted Wade shoots the outside. Now he's going to seal off Brady LaBeouf, but now he's got no help from Bradley.
Can LaBeouf get a run on the 2 of Ted Wade? LaBeouf's going to move to the inside, possibly thinking Wade might move back on the outside, but now the 9 goes back up top. White flag this time by 1 final lap from Atlanta, and Ted Wade leads the outside line. He's got 2 over-the-top designs entries behind him. LaBeouf stuck on the bottom line. Ted Wade leads on the outside. LaBeouf loose off of 2. He has to chase it to the apron, and just about now, Ted Wade can look back in the mirror and smile. All teammates behind and nobody on the lead lap around as Bradley almost turns his teammate. Williams loose on the inside, but it's not gonna matter. Ted Wade is a 4-time winner in season 5.
Oh, and they're spinning behind him after the finish, too. But, man, Ted Wade had to earn that one, Josh. I think that was the toughest win for the 2 machine all year long. Not only did he have to battle the 9 of Brady LaBeouf, who I do think was faster there in the last 10 laps, but just a literal wave of lap traffic coming to the checkered flag. Such a weird situation he had here at Atlanta tonight. And then 2 machine again, and Ted Wade able to survive like he has all season long.
4 wins on the season for Ted Wade. It started at Martinsville, continued through Sonoma. He became unbeatable in Darlington, and now he is back to victory lane. And looking at the notes, Ian, Ted Wade won at Martinsville. The next week it was Nashville. He did not go to victory lane. The next week it was Sonoma, back to victory lane. Next week, Talladega, not in victory lane. Darlington the next week, into victory lane. The next round at Indy, not into victory lane. And now at Atlanta, he's back in victory lane. It went win, no, win, no, win, no, win for Ted Wade.
Well, I guess he's the two truck, right? So he just wins every other race. That's why he's the two truck, I guess. But I didn't even notice that until you pointed that out, Josh. But you're absolutely correct. It's been every other race for Ted Wade since Martinsville on July 22nd. And here we are, September 16th. And next week we go to Hickory on September 23rd. And Ted Wade has just been the model of consistency here this season.
He continues his domination. 4 wins now, continuing to rack up the playoff points as we will seal off your playoff contenders in just a few weeks' time. But Ted Wade is your winner of the Millie's Restaurant and Catering 200 from Virtual Atlanta. And what a way to win it. Brady LaBeouf ends up in second place. Derek Kilgore and Devin Painter are going to round out the drivers that finished on the lead lap. And yes, those are all of the drivers that finished on the lead lap. Everybody else back from here either was a lap down before the caution we saw towards the end of stage 2 or got pushed 1 lap down by that caution. And it was Chris Cinnamon, Tyler Dittmer, James Morris, Steve Williams, Zach Hartwick, and Keith Haney that'll round out your top 10. 11th goes to Brandon Bullock, Cody Knott, Keith Bradley, Huck Wigington, and Lucas Whitehead through the top 15. Dan Hagen, Kyle Hess, Robbie Richards, Tori Thompson, and Raul Meza through the top 20. And 21st will go to Tim Hammond, Brian Abbott, James Haney, Eric Zimmerman, Jeffrey Sickles, the top 25. And Clinkard unfortunately run into issues. Same thing with Stephen Thomas, Adam Newbert, Joey Duceppe, and Dana Shepard. That'll round out your top 30. Jason Morales, Justin Lumpkin, Adam Cantwell, Trey Pitts, Jonathan Munda, Ed Osborne, and Taylor Peacock will round out the field of drivers that took the green flag. So 37 of them took the green flag and only 4 finish on the lead lap. I think that might be a new NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series record there, Ian.
That was a very unique race, and especially with that late caution, that's something that I haven't seen in at least my time in broadcasting here on Racecraft TV, Josh, and even just watching racing in general. I've never seen a race like that, at least a super speedway race where there's only 4 trucks left on the lead lap. Usually we see so many cautions here at races like this that everybody kind of has a chance to get back on the lead lap. Well, not tonight. That caution came out at the most inopportune time for a majority of our field.
So we wait for our top 3 to work their way into our interview waiting room. Moving forward in this campaign, of course, with Hickory in 1 week's time, then we have Pocono, which is a very unique course in and of itself. Then Talladega, Rockingham, and Charlotte to round out this regular season. But then we talk about the playoffs, Ian, and that opening round is an intense one. We go to Michigan International Raceway, then we go to Circuit of the Americas, and then to Kansas. So it's large speedway, road course, and intermediate that is going to begin in the Sweet 16. And oh, by the way, we're going to cut from the 16 down to 8 after those opening 3 races.
And I know I'm very biased, Josh, but I think that Michigan International Speedway is a great place to open these playoffs. I think that Michigan's a very underrated track. It's a 2-mile high banked D oval, but it takes a lot to run well there. You got to really understand not only how to work through the field, work through the draft as well, because there's a heavy aerodynamic factor that's there at Michigan, but also you just got to work your momentum up the entire time with the size of the track and how much those engines are wound up. All those RPMs you have to keep running, or you're just going to fall back in the pack and find yourself in a spot where you're not going to make any room on the racetrack. So really good test there at Michigan for the first round of the playoffs.
Well, let's not waste any more time and let's get into the post-race show. And Ted Wade back to victory lane, 4th time for him this season. And what a race it was for the number 2 of Ted Wade. He joins us in the broadcast booth now. And Ted, from Martinsville to Sonoma to Darlington to Atlanta, you definitely win at the unique tracks. Congratulations on yet another one this season.
Thanks, guys. I think this one was the most interesting race of them all.
Yeah, when that caution came out towards the end of stage number 3 there, what were you thinking? Because it was suddenly wasn't a race with strategy anymore. It was most of the field caught one lap down, and there were only 6 of you on that restart that were on the lead lap.
Yeah, I realized that there probably 2 laps into it. I thought there was more cars than that on the lead lap, and I kind of just tried to ride behind James Morris there. And I was trying to watch back there and see where Brady was at and the rest of them guys. And we were about 3 or 4 seconds ahead, and they ended up catching us there at the end, made it a little bit of a nail biter.
And moving forward, of course, with the campaign, Hickory Motor Speedway in 1 week's time. But you've got 4 wins under your belt with the still 5 rounds remaining before the playoffs. Is it just kind of try and grasp at any playoff points you can get at this point? Because 4 wins, you're well and over locked into the playoffs, just going for bonus points now to add on to your Sweet 16 run.
Yeah, pretty much. Just try to rack up as many points as we can headed into the playoffs, because we know how it goes once we get into that. Everybody steps up their game pretty good, and it's a tough group of guys to race around here.
Anybody you would like to give a shout out to before we let you go here on Racecraft TV? I know a lot of people will make everything possible for you.
Oh, yeah, man. John Hedrick at Over the Top Designs. My teammates there at Upfront Motorsports. If it wasn't for them, we definitely wouldn't have came out on top of that one. That was a crazy wild win. But Dan's Top Notch Heating and Cooling, Bruzy Racewear, Triple Win Pooling, NASRA, you guys over here at Racecraft. Thank all you guys.
And thank you very much for your time here post-race. That's Ted Wade in the 2, victorious yet again here from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. And we'll continue with our post-race show with now Brady LaBeouf in the 9. He went from victory lane 1 week ago to 2nd place tonight. Ian, you're standing by with him.
And Brady, you came up just short tonight, P2, and we saw the dramatic drive down to the bottom there on the final lap. What happened from your point of view, and what could you have possibly done differently to end up in victory lane tonight?
Yeah, I just burned up the tires, even though they don't wear that much, but I definitely burned up the tires to where it got loose on me coming off of 2, and that was just it for me. I just had to ride it out. I knew I was going to finish 2nd or 3rd, but congrats to Ted for pulling it off. It's kind of a weird race. I felt like I dominated most of it, but I just didn't get the win.
And a strange situation, especially coming to the last couple of laps. Talk about how interesting it was not only race Ted Wade there, but just be stuck in a gaggle of lap cars as well.
Yeah, I felt like that caution couldn't have came out at the worst time. I felt like me, James, and Devin were going to be great, because we were maintaining that 8-second gap on the field. So even if we lost 2 seconds after pit stops, we'd still be good. But it's just kind of weird. You get up to the pack. I had to work my way from like 4 seconds back, and you finally get up there, and you're like, wow, there's 10 trucks that I have to get around just to get to Ted, who's technically the leader, but he's running in 3rd. So I was able to get up there, but then I kind of realized real quick I was working with Chris Cinnamon and Keith Bradley to get to the pack, and I knew they were going to work with Ted and push him to the win, being teammates. So I got to the outside. I made a run for it. I was going to actually work with Derek right there, the number 11, but it just didn't work out for me this week.
Well, and you mentioned you had the battle Ted Wade and his teammates going into this latter half of the season, especially heading into the playoffs. You already have the win, so you found yourself locked into this playoffs. But does that kind of shift your focus now to trying to get as many wins as you can? Because I know going into this championship battle, if you're going to have any chance of catching Ted Wade, you need a few more wins under your belt.
Yeah, I definitely wanted this win, especially getting that stage win tonight. Thank you, Adam Newbert, for working with me on that one. So that's a playoff point that I'll get, but Ted gets another 3 points. So still a lot of work to do. But yeah, I'm focused on the playoffs. I've already started doing some testing at Michigan.
Well, a good P2 finish here for the 9 truck of Brady LaBeouf. I know he wants to be in victory lane, Josh, but you can't be upset, especially when you get that stage win and try to maximize the points on the day. So appreciate Brady coming and talking to us here on the Racecraft TV booth. Congratulations there on your P2, Brady.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you real quick to Racecraft. Appreciate everything you guys do. I forgot to say something last week. I know everything happened so fast, but I got a good buddy of mine. His wife has just finished chemo. She had breast cancer, so she's done with chemo. She's a survivor now. So Stacy Brantley, that win last week was for you. Get well soon. Thank you, Mission One. Thank you, NASRA. And thank you, everybody that makes this happen.
And Brady LeBluff racing out there, not just for race wins, but for all of his fans too, Josh. So great to see him here in P2, and good to see him what he's going to be able to do for the rest of the season as well.
And we advance to a first-time podium finisher in Derek Kilgore. And Derek, I'll be the first to congratulate you. First ever top 10, first ever top 5, and it comes tonight. And your best finish before tonight was 12th at Talladega earlier this season. And now you're standing on the podium. But congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was not an easy one for you to get, of course, with so many ups and downs. You qualified P24, but finding yourself on the lead lap after that caution comes out at right in the middle of green flag stops. What were you thinking at that point? And did you know that an opportunity at one of your best finishes was right on the horizon?
Yeah, I felt like we had a good chance if we could get up there with the pack to try to get a win there with so few cars on the lead lap. But I kind of pushed taut and fell to the back, and it kind of didn't work out.
And now does this give you a little bit more momentum heading into the remainder of the calendar? Because 27th you were in points coming into tonight, and throughout the season now you have more opportunities left. And with Talladega, another plate race as well, you have an opportunity to get some more points. So is this the start of some good momentum for you leading up to the playoffs?
Oh yeah, I absolutely hope so. With Talladega coming up, maybe that's another chance for us to try to get a win or something like that and get into the playoffs.
Well, of course, a great big congratulations to you on your podium finish tonight. Who do you want to thank on Racecraft TV? Of course, you know so many people make everything possible.
Oh yeah, I'd like to thank everybody my team, Redline Racing. They've been there all season, and it's just good to be a part of this NASRA.
And congratulations again on your third place finish, and thank you for your time. That's Derek Kilgore, third place finish for him, and congratulations to him, Brady LeBluff, and Ted Wade on their top 3 finishing tonight. And Ted Wade walking back to victory lane. 1 week from tonight, we go from high speed at Atlanta to short track racing the proper way in. We're going to Hickory Motor Speedway in these trucks. Man, I'm excited, and man, I'm upset that I won't be here.
Oh man, yeah, you aren't going to be here. It's going to be me and Kenneth, I believe, Josh, but you're missing the world's most famous short track in Hickory Motor Speedway. 3/8 of a mile, 14 degrees of banking in turns 1 and 2, 12 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4. Hey, you said it. It's short course racing the right way, and we see this shot right now just coming through the gates of Hickory Motor Speedway and just looking out of that short track scene like that, Josh. That just screams racing to me.
And it is going to be a very, very exciting one. First short track that we have on the calendar since Martinsville. So you are going to want to tune in. Same time, same place, September 23rd, around 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch the stream going live right here on Racecraft TV. But for everybody at the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series, for Brady LeBluff and the rest of his team, for Zach Johnson pushing the buttons tonight in the virtual production trailer, and for my colleague in the booth, Ian Fisher, my name is Joshua Lee, and we thank you for joining us for the Millie's Restaurant and Catering 200. It's a part of Season 5 for the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. Ted Wade right back to victory lane. Can he get 5 in Hickory, or will we see a 7th unique winner on the season? Tune in 1 week to find out.